Hello, and welcome to our session, International Markets of Opportunity, Exporting Your Products and Services to Spain. I am Alice Ancona, Senior VP and COO of the World Trade Center Miami. The World Trade Center Miami is the organizer of the America's Food and Beverage Show. For those of you attending this session, please type your questions onto the chat or the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will address the questions at the end of the presentation. Please note that all our conference sessions will be available on our platform within 24 to 36 hours and will be available on our website, americasfoodandbeverage.com, sometime next week. So we'll notify you once the presentations are loaded on americasfoodandbeverage.com. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our speakers for this session. Jennifer Cleaver, Foreign Agricultural Service, USDA in Madrid, Spain, and Linda Caruso, Deputy Senior Commercial Officer, U.S. Department of Commerce, Madrid, Spain. Ladies, the show is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you all. And I would be remiss if I didn't say a special salute to all our veterans. Thank you so much for your service. I do hope that for all your families and your teams are in good health, in good spirits. So today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Spanish food and beverage market. And don't be intimidated, but I do have a lot of ground to cover. So I will touch lightly upon these topics, but you'll be hearing recurring themes, and that's on purpose so that you can have a better sense with you of some of the major trends that we are seeing. So right off the bat, let's start with the Spanish economic overview. As you know, Spain is a member country of the EU, abides by the customs unions in terms of duties, and it also abides by the regulations for food and agricultural products that the EU is set at the EU Commission level. The economy, I think it's important for us to look at the evolution of the Spanish economies to understand where they have come from, where we are now, and where we're going in the future. So the economy in 2019, you still see that growth, although at a slower pace from the start of the economic recovery in 2013. This is primarily driven by the tourism sector. For over 5 years, Spain held record number of tourists with 83.7% of international foreign visitors in 2019. And why is this important? It's important because it partly fueled the hotel, restaurants, and institutional channel, where it's one of the areas that we try to target on food and beverage. So as you can imagine, and everywhere else in the world, with the introduction of COVID this year, is something that affected the tourism sector greatly. Within the first 7 months of 2020, was a big decrease in international visitors to Spain, a drop of about 72.4% compared to the previous year. The hotel and restaurant sector also was impacted with the temporary closure of bars and restaurants. But I think it's very important to note that while this is a sobering circumstance, everybody agrees that the economic fundamentals of the Spanish economy are much stronger now than they were in their previous economic crisis. So what that tells us is that the opportunities are there for a rebound once the COVID situation domestically and around the world normalizes. There are some really good news, however. In the food industry, in particular, during the COVID-19 outbreak, during the lockdown measures, the Spanish food processing sector was considered an essential activity which continued to respond to demand domestically. To this day, Spain really enjoys a modern food processing sector that pays special attention to the quality, safety, and traceability of the products it produces. The processing sector has been very key for Spain from the previous economic crisis to become one of the most competitive food processing sectors in all of Europe. In the past, Spanish food processors mainly focused on satisfying domestic demand. But since 2008, we have seen a refocus on exports and value-added products. And should come as no surprise that despite the pandemic, in the first 8 months of 2020, we saw an increase of 1.3% in the Spanish agricultural exports to the world. So I think in that sense, you see that the food industry is a very vital sector and is one of the drivers of any economic recovery that we see forward. Not dissimilar from other countries in the world, the Spanish economy is expected to contract in 2020, rebound in 2021, with modest growth in 2022. But again, the food services sector is going to be key. Looking more closely at the Spanish market, and in particular, the area that you are all interested in, some of the trends that we are seeing since the COVID pandemic is this incredible shift from the hotel, restaurant, and institution channel, or HRI, to retail. Retail, driven primarily by consumers that are increasingly cooking at home because of quarantine, or because they're overly cautious about dining out, even when the restrictions are lifted. Supermarkets in Spain are living a very atypical times right now since the pandemic, with increases in income and growth, but also slimmer margins. Despite the pandemic, the Spanish retail sector is going through an expansion in the number of stores, where smaller players are catching up to the bigger players. Just from January to July 2020, there were more than 450 new stores opening throughout Spain. This is quite significant. But again, the point to highlight is that it was not by the major retailers in Spain, but by smaller retailers. Another item that we saw, the long-awaited push for Spanish consumers to really embrace e-commerce, came immediately after the pandemic broke. And since then, we've seen a rise in specifically metropolitan areas like Barcelona and Madrid. Online sales are already bordering at about 5% of the total share. So finally, Spain is coming up to par with other European countries when it comes to purchases online. In the case of food and beverages, the increase in demand for these products is in double digits now, about 25%. And according to Nielsen data, already 1 million Spanish families choose to buy their food and beverage purchases online. So retailers, big retailers like Mercadona, which I'm sure you're familiar with, continue to invest significantly in developing their online distribution platforms. Another area that I wanted to highlight, because it's pretty unique to Spanish, is culture. If humans are considered social beings, then Spanish consumers should be considered superhuman. Spain is a super social society. It's no secret that dining out, gathering with friends and socializing with family is a great part of the culture. Spain is the country with the highest number of bars and restaurants per capita in the world. 1 bar or restaurant per 175 inhabitants. So despite the limitations of the pandemics, folks are still going out whenever they can and are likely to return in full force once the pandemic situation is resolved. So these are good news in terms of culture. People will return to the hospitality and restaurants sector. But I think another important point that is unique to Spain is the historical and cultural ties it has with Latin America. The cross-pollination of products introduced in Spain that could spark interest in Latin America should not be underestimated. The transfer of culture, cuisine, and consumer trends is very much alive. Looking quickly at some of the demographics and demand drivers, we're looking at population growth. Spain has a population of 47 million people as of 2019. And population expansion numbers from now till 2040 look at about 5.5%. This is primarily driven by immigration, as the natural change still remains negative. But a substantial population, expanding population, and comparatively high incomes means that Spain should continue to be an attractive consumer market for the next 20 years. Aging population. I think it's very well known that the aging population is going around across Europe. Spain is no different. By 2030, Spain will be the 4th oldest country in the world by median age. Seniors are expected to enjoy the most stable income growth as well. So the group of older consumers are already changing the consumer landscape in Spain. But this segment of the population is increasingly searching for premium and differentiated products, functional foods that contain natural ingredients, low cholesterol, fat-free, low salt and sodium products, and low added sugar. Urbanization is another trend that we're seeing, of course, with younger people moving out of the rural areas and into the cities. The impact there is, busier lives in urban cities leads to wanting to have ready-to-eat meals and the convenience of just quick meals on the go. But there's also this idea of healthy eating. So even if you're eating something that is conveniently and quick already made, you're still looking for items that are clean labeled, very few ingredients. Also, the younger population has been traveling to the United States, so they might be more familiar with US products. Spain still has a strong middle class. Despite the COVID crisis, the middle class in Spain is anticipated to continue strengthening over the medium term. And one item I wanted to point out to you as well is the increasing number of people living alone. People living alone in Spain has increased from 8.8% in 1981 to 25.8% in 2019. And according to national statistics, by 2035, 5.7 million people will live on their own. This is almost 1/3 of the total households. Single parent homes are also on the rise. So the consumer preference for smaller size packaging and single servings when shopping for food and beverages is likely to continue increasing. We mentioned, I'm sorry, let me go back. Yes, so touching again on going into consumer preferences, location is one area that just became absolutely key during the COVID pandemic. Proximity to shopping is still very important to Spanish consumers, and what that helped was the rise of regional markets and the fact that they gained so much ground in Spain compared to the larger markets and retail markets is a very unique development and phenomenon in the European Union. Convenience is another area that through the pandemic, food delivery service provided a lifeline actually for some of the hospitality sector. Delivery is definitely consolidating in 2020 here in Spain. Just during the strictest time of the COVID pandemic, food delivery attracted 2.2 million new customers, and that trend is expected to be stable now, but not a lot of those customers are leaving, so still asking for delivery services. And another important aspect of that is also the takeaway. That's another very popular way to continue consuming foods, with now attracting 41% of Spanish consumers. I do want to spend a little bit of time, if I could, on promotion and private label. There's no surprise that supermarket brands have surged in the EU following COVID-19. Spain remains a very strong market for private label, with some consumers already facing financial difficulties. Greater control on their spending, of course, is going to be an important factor. But it's important to note that the margin for private label growth is significantly more limited now than it was during the previous economic crisis, I think 2008 to 2013. A recent study points out that the percentage of Spanish consumers buying more private label products has risen from 23 to 33%. But another difference worth noting is that the evolution of consumer perception towards private label. Compared to previous economic crises, the image of private label products has improved. It has gone from being seen as a low-cost product to a good for your money product, good value for a good price, with actually offerings shown in the gourmet sections of different supermarkets and at a higher price. Another thing that we have seen is a rise in promotion that shouldn't come as a surprise, but different in other countries like Portugal, for example, where the promotion was still, the use of promotion was still above 50%. It wasn't the case for Spain, but we are seeing a rise in promotions. In fact, there's the brochures and posters in supermarkets that reflect a much higher promotional effort than in previous years, with greater offers and discounts. In fact, this IRI consulting firm has found that prices in August have already dropped 1.8%. Very few chains are going to resist the temptation to lower their prices. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. Health and sustainability is something that across Europe is growing, but as the trends happen first in the north, it takes a little bit of time for them to come to Southern Europe. But Spanish consumers are increasingly committed to healthy eating and sustainability. Consumers are paying more attention to traceability, how products are produced, where they are produced, and conservation of resources. In the case of the United States, we have a good story to tell with our sustainability and production methods. So I think we should be able to keep telling that story and know that we're going to have a resonated audience in Spain. Options and variety is another area where a lot of consumers are going to the grocery store, and if there's a variety pack of small samples that a consumer can try different products before they make a decision as to what kind of product they'll continue to commit, is something that we have seen in some of the different channels. Grocery stores today are packing 5 times as many products as they did in the past. So that should tell you that they're responding to the consumer interest for variety in products. Consumers are also likely to become a little polarized in their choices. They're looking for private label for basic products like legumes, rice, etc., but are looking to indulge and are looking at premium varieties on special products. Since they are unable to go to the hospitality sector as much as they used to, some of these items that were previously consumed in restaurants are making inroads home. It is important to note, however, that the increase in sale at the retail, while has been significant, it hasn't compensated for the loss of sales through the hospitality sector. But it has opened new opportunities to sell products through e-commerce and specialized traditional stores. Very quickly, I want to take you through these slides, and I won't spend too much time on this, but I think it's important for you to see. Spain is typically considered a bulk commodity and a mature market, but I think if you look at the evolution of our exports over the last couple of decades, you see the variability of the bulk, which you see here in green, and then look at the steady but growing expansion of the consumer-oriented products. And I think this is where my office sees the biggest opportunities for growth of US food and agricultural products to Spain. Looking just at the consumer-oriented products, it should come as no surprise, tree nuts definitely dominates that category. But if we take that out of the equation, and here I should note that I've taken some of the products out, but just kept the products that I believe would be of interest to the audience. And I think it's interesting to note some of the product categories that have done significantly well over the last couple of years. And condiments and sauces is one that has done really well, as with some fresh vegetables. We've seen a rise in sweet potatoes, if you can believe it. And there are other areas where you see snack foods hit a little bit of a slump, and wine and beer as well. But I think you can see from here that there are some other product categories within consumer-oriented products that show some promise. I want to mention seafood very quickly and distilled spirits in case there's any of you that are interested in these sectors. For fish products, we're seeing quite the increase. There were some that were mentioning that it could have been leveling off, but here what you're seeing is an impact on definitely on HRI. But given the good popularity of seafood as a health food, as a healthy alternative, we believe that seafood definitely still has room to come back and continue growing. For distilled spirits, HRI again was a very big driver for this sector, but as you see in 2018, we were actually hit with tariffs, which has caused those product exports to go down a little bit. But these areas we think are still opportunities for growth. Quickly on food and beverage trends, I've mentioned some of these already, but I think it's worth mentioning again, health trends. Again, category includes functional, free from lactose-free, gluten-free, soy-free, and innovative health foods. These trends are an opportunity for players to drive value rather than compete on price as it was in the past. Cooking at home. This new normal brings opportunities for spices, sauces, and semi-prepared mixes, pancakes mix, and mac and cheese, for example, and those type of products. Leisure at home. You got to differentiate. If you are working at home, if you want to spend some time at home, there is a little bit of indulgence. I think there was the second week of confinement or the third week of confinement that we saw a spike on consumption of chocolate at home here in Spain. It's normalized, but there's definitely that need for people to treat themselves while they're home. And in this category, tree nuts, pistachio, sunflower seeds, rice snacks actually saw records on the retail sale. Gourmet, consumers are looking for gourmet products in retail stores to indulge again at home with their families, kind of a treat since folks have not been able to go outside as much as they used to. Very quickly on beverages, beer sales were doing pretty well, but were somehow tempered with COVID-19. Retail has picked up, but not much, not to compensate for the sale through the HRI channel, but the online sales have increased 75%. So again, the opportunity is there. With regards to spirits, these were the most hit, most certainly with the lack of tourism in the HRI sector. But consumers in Spain are keener to drink better quality spirits as opposed to, more on quality than quantity, and are going for those products that offer a more sophisticated experience. Buying premium is a major trend across spirits that we're seeing, and the population aged 40 to 50 is the one that's most interested in these high quality drinks. Some developments to watch that we are keeping an eye out for, that you should too. Spain is currently discussing the implementation of a few laws. The new Ministry of Consumer Affairs is considering a increase in the value-added tax for sugary drinks or those with artificial sweeteners of 21%. Again, this is a proposal, and so we're keeping an eye on that. The same ministry is looking to fight children obesity, and is now looking to scrap television and print advertisement aimed at young children for foods that are high in sugar and saturated fats. Also targeting advertisements between cartoons and children's programming. And it's also considering the vetoing of celebrities and influencers to advertise those products. Proposals, we're just keeping an eye to see what the final determination is as to whether these regulations go forward. Another item, of course, we all know additional tariffs. The EU imposed tariffs on a series of US agricultural products in 2018. And this week, they've announced another set of products, the US products that will face a 25% tariff. So that's something that we certainly continue to watch. The rise of food patriotism. If you are following Europe, it shouldn't come as a surprise. But however, in Spain, we think that this trend will remain in the longer term. There's been a big push by the Ministry of Agriculture to support local farmers, and retailers have really adopted that and done promotions promoting seasonal products that are produced locally. So that's something that we continue to watch, which certainly will modify or make us think about how we approach Spanish consumers going forward. And lastly, one of the things that we're watching too is the US-EU lobster agreement, which was announced this summer, that would hopefully eliminate EU tariffs on US live and frozen lobster products coming to the EU. This would level the playing field with our Canadian colleagues, which would be great. But again, this has not been fully final, and so we're continuing to watch that for more opportunities. Here I'm laying some market strategies. These shouldn't come to no surprise. These are available in our exporter guide that is published every year and available online through our website. I just want to point out, that in Spain, still personal relationships are still very, very important, and there is a realization that more things have to happen virtually. But I think if people have a preference, they would still prefer to meet in person. The Spanish market is composed of a number of regional markets, but are serviced from 2 hubs. So just keep that in mind, from Madrid and Barcelona. And just a small reminder again that Spain must meet, any product that comes to Spain must meet EU sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. Which means, though, if exporters are shipping to other countries in the EU, chances are that your product will meet the Spanish requirements. Here are some of the trade shows that will allow you to showcase your products in the region. I want to highlight the Free From Functional Food. This is a show that comes from the Netherlands sometimes 1 year, and then comes to Spain. I had a chance to visit the show, and it's an up-and-coming show in Spain, and there's a lot of potential there, particularly with all the consumer trends that we have been mentioning throughout this presentation. Specific shows in Spain are below. Alimentaria, of course, you might be familiar with, and Salon de Gourmet, which targets chefs. Here are some of the services that we can provide to you, the Foreign Agricultural Service. I believe some of my colleagues have been speaking to you throughout the week, so I won't go through too much, but as you know, we do reports, analysis that is available online. And we have, this year in particular, have done a lot of sector updates and the impact of COVID on these different sectors. We do market development as well. And if you happen to be in a fortunate time where your shipment is stuck at port, well, you know who to call. You can definitely call us and we would do what we can to assist you. We also work specifically on market development. We do a lot of work with the Agricultural Trade Association, some of them listed here. Also State Department of Agriculture. And I think one of the things I wanted to highlight to you all is that we have come, of course, to the realization that we need to pivot, and we have pivoted a lot of our activities to a virtual platform. And this, for the remainder of the year, most of our activities will continue to be virtual. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there to carry your message, to carry the good story of sustainability for US products. And that is it for me. Thank you, I appreciate it. And sorry if I spoke a mile a minute, but I had a lot to cover. So Linda, I turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm going to be putting on my screen now with the PowerPoint I have prepared for showing you what the commercial service is all about. And we are partners with the U.S. Agriculture Department, and we generally across the globe have offices side by side at embassies around the world. In the commercial service world, we're from the Department of Commerce, and we have actually around 80 offices outside the United States and over 100 inside the United States. And our services, I wanted to approach my conversation from a very general point of view because Jennifer did such a good job of covering the specific market and market entry for food and beverage for Spain. And I wanted to just remind everyone who's watching that our office is always available, always open. You can consider us your in-house exporters, export department. And we do similar services from the agriculture service, but we cover other sectors. And so I wanted to run through some of our services. And if there's ever a question that you have, you can contact either one of us. If there's a product that you handle that maybe covers, you're not sure who to go to, just come to one of us and we will hand you over to whoever is best fit for you to help you, because that's what we're all about, is trying to get your objective met as far as exporting is concerned. So we counsel. We can give you an hours of our time. My elevator pitch is usually there is an office that we have, a U.S. Export Assistance Center within an hour's drive of your home. So if you wake up one morning and decide I should be exporting, then look for the U.S. Export Assistance Center closest to you. We have statistical research that's going on a regular basis, similar to the Agriculture Service. And I'll give you the hint to look up country commercial guide and put the country in, put Spain in that you're interested in, and it'll be online for you, and you can go to whatever segment of the country commercial guide that interests you most to find out up-to-date statistics about how to export. We similarly do business matchmaking. And again, the elevator pitch is in 7 weeks, and for $700, we could find you a distributor anywhere in the world. So it costs money. You say, yes, we have to. We're actually mandated by Congress to cover our costs, but the costs are pennies on the dollar for what you would spend if you had to fly to or pay for a private consultant to find out the details that you would like to find out from our office. That is very very cost. It's very profitable for you. So, in how profitable? Well, I'm going to tell you about that in a couple of the slides coming up. But we also do commercial diplomacy similar to the Agriculture Service. And commercial diplomacy means if there's a policy or a trade obstacle that is standing in your way or a market barrier, we are happy to listen to find out perhaps your industry is being inundated by this barrier and you don't know it, but if you tell us about it, then we'll be able to aggregate all the information and find out whether it's a systemic issue that is impacting a certain US industry in a particular country. So our counseling is available to you, market intelligence is available to you, and matchmaking. Right now, we used to have the US company come and they just we would tell them where to stay. They'd show up and we would accompany them on their visits with potential importers. That's not going on right now because travel is not happening. However, we do have many US companies meeting potential importers face-to-face online with virtual matchmaking. We also, just as Jennifer is participating in virtual trade shows, and that's going on every month in every sector around the world. So just some of the statistics that clients right now, this was from 2018, is most of our clients are small to medium-sized exporters. So I hope that that is you. And we are facilitating billions in exports. And also, we also promote foreign direct investment into the United States. So we have another arm called Select USA that we are constantly looking for locals. So that means here in Spain, investors who consider the United States interesting market to invest in. So we are increasing, our mandate is to increase jobs. And since the purchasing power outside the United States is greater than inside the United States, when you take the globe into consideration, going abroad, and we would, at our U.S. Export Assistance Center close to your office, we would do a matrix study to find out which countries are best suited for your product. And since only 12% of United States companies export, there's a lot of room for growth. So you can see from this slide that, for example, Germany exports 47%, Korea 44%. So they're very familiar and experts at exporting, and we are not in the United States in general. And that's why the Export Assistance Center and the Foreign Commercial Service can help you, because they're all the experts and you can just ask them what you should do and we'll give you our best advice. So we're worldwide. And the other issue is with the increasing clutter of marketing and market intelligence, it helps to go through us, because when we do our research on your behalf, we call up and say, we're calling from the US Embassy, and that gets people's attention. So it actually cuts through the clutter when you're trying to cold call new contacts. And we do this by understanding what your objectives are, understanding your market, your product, and the niche that you're trying to create in a foreign market. And then we help you get in. So last year was a good year for us, and we actually helped 33,000 exporters, and exporting creates jobs. So that's one of the biggest mandates that Congress gives us, is because when you increase your market, you increase your manufacturing, and that usually leads to increased spending and increased jobs. And it also helps return $392 of investment for every dollar that you spend with the commercial service. So it returns to the US economy. And our clients actually report that there's a average annual revenue has increased by $2 million a year. So you can see that by pivoting and looking outside the United States to foreign markets, that we can show you the way to access the consumers that are actually looking and still looking for US quality products. Jennifer said it very well, that the United States is still in a very good position and known for its quality. And you can look at the products that come and trace them. The traceability is there. So it gives the consumer, especially in Europe, some confidence in what they're purchasing, and your company will grow faster. So we are CS Madrid, and I can be reached at linda.caruso@trade.gov. And I hope that this helps, and that you'll be able to, I'm going to stop sharing now, and that you'll be able to, did I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And that you'll be able to utilize either one of us or both of us in your search for foreign markets. So thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Linda. That was an excellent presentation. Looking forward to hearing more about Spain in the next session. We don't have any question and answers. So right now, if you guys have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the Q&A box. We'll wait a few minutes before we end the session. Now, keep in mind, this session is recorded and we will make it available on the platform within 24 to 36 hours. And later we'll make it available on americasfoodandbeverage.com. We'll also have a presentation available for download from the slides that you saw today. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions right now. So with that said, I am going to close this session. I'd like to thank again our speakers, Jennifer and Linda. And I want to wish everyone a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.